The beauty of doing it that way or buying it that way, you don't put a deposit down. That's why there are less properties than people in the UK because of one of that law.
So could a house be for the council initially and then it was passed on to a housing association?
Which is rare.
Ensure that she gets the right to buy the house. She wants me to JV with her, and it is a house that she has lived in. I think maybe the council gave it to her at a time where she was a single mom with 3 kids and stuff like that. I think she had a right to buy it, but somewhere down the line, they moved the house from the council to the housing association. I don't know how that sort of works, but she said she's been trying to reach the housing association without any success. So first question is, what can one do to, because she still lives there.
Right, okay.
But she doesn't, because that house would have appreciated in value over the years and all of that, to get it. And then she also doesn't mind, after getting it, for example, living there somewhere else if it's more beneficial. You know?
Okay, let me just get my head around it. Someone lives in a council house. That is now an housing association house, and they want to buy the house. Basically, That's what they want.
But what's this housing association? What's that about? I don't really understand.
Okay, I'll explain to you now. So, housing association is a third-party company, right, that provide houses for the council on behalf of the council. The council do not own this building, right, or these properties. It is owned by housing association. Okay, and this housing association, they work with the council to provide accommodation for the people who can afford to pay expensive houses. Okay, that's what housing association is. So council houses are the homes that are built by the government themselves. They own the buildings, right? It's theirs. Okay, and then they rent it to people who can afford to pay expensive rent. Make sense? So these are the distinct identities. Okay,
so could a house be for the council initially and then it was passed on to a housing association?
Which is rare. That's where the sticking point is. Normally it's the opposite, right? It becomes housing association and then the council buys it off them. Yeah, it's not the other way around. She may have confused that probably. Okay, so what I know about buying from council homes, that's what I'm going to advise you on. Association is a bit not straightforward because each association is different. Okay, should have to find out with the association in that regards. And it's just weird for the council to sell the house to the association and get the tenant again to rent the house. It doesn't add up for me, right? Maybe it's one of those councils, okay, because they do stupid things. So what I would say, if you lived in a council house, I think you're entitled to buy it if you've lived in it for over 5 years, right? If you lived in the house for 5 years, you are entitled to buy it. Okay, whether they want it or not, you are entitled to. The government is trying to change that law, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, first right of refusal or whatever that thing is.
Yes, you've got that. So once you've exercised that right, in order to exercise the right, now they've got an online platform, right? You can go online, you put your details, you put everything you want to buy. How long you lived in the property. They will tell you if you qualify, right? If you qualify, then they'll ask you what you need to do. Basically, is to apply. It's very straightforward as well, right?
Is it the government? Which website will you go?
The government websites. Just Google right to buy. Yeah? It will come up, then you click on that link. Make sure you're on the government website, not a third party, because there are companies that are helping people do it. But it's very straightforward. You don't need to pay someone for it. Okay. So once you've done that, the council will look at your document. Say, okay, yes, this gentleman or this lady is entitled to buy in the house. They will contact you then, make a formal initial finding, saying, okay, we understand you're interested in this, how much you're earning, how much you're making, and all that sort of thing. Okay. So, and then once you've done that, they will tell you then at that point, or maybe few days later, how much discount you are entitled to, right? In most cases, you're entitled up to 40% discount. 40 discount, yeah. I've helped someone bought a property like this. Few people actually, not even one person. right? So what you then do, from the outset, you go 40% discount, right? So once I've told you that, the next stage of the process, they will instruct a valuation officer, right? And that valuation officer will come and value the property. Suppose they value the property, say £100,000 again. These are good figures. If they value it for £100,000, the council will sell it to you for £60,000 because it's 40% discount, isn't it? So at that point, then you are nearly there, right? They do all their checks, everything. The mortgage offer comes through. The beauty of doing it that way or buying it that way, you don't put a deposit down. Yeah, you don't put a deposit because the 40% is more than deposit, right? It's like when you're doing a remortgage, basically. Yeah. So the bank will lend you that money now, based on your income. Now they say, okay, now you've got the property 60,000. How much are you earning? So whatever you're earning as of today, it get multiplied by 4.5. Yes. So if you're earning, let's say you're earning 20,000, times that by 4.5 is how much?
About 80 something.
Do your calculation there.
Sorry, let me just quickly do that. 20 times 4.5, right?
Yeah.
90.
How much?
90.
90,000, right? So in your case then, if your property is 60,000, the bank can lend you the money because you pass the affordability. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So basically, that's how you can buy it. And then after all that done, there is the restriction on the property then. They will tell you you're not allowed to rent or move out of the property. I think with 2 or 5 years. I can't remember which one.
I think you can't sell as well.
Yeah, and you can't sell. You're right. You cannot move out, you cannot sell, and you cannot rent.
At all?
At all. Right? So that's the restriction for 2 or 5 years, depending which council.
Wait, so I beg. Hold on a second, Rahim. Are you saying that you cannot sell, as in you cannot sell at any time, or you cannot sell within a specified
Within that specified period I've just told you, within 2 and 5 years, I don't know which one, it's 2 years or 5. It's likely to be 5 years.
Okay.
Right? You cannot sell the property.
Yeah, that's
It's not forever. It's just that.
It's just for that window.
time.
Right? It's
same
just,
as rent, yeah?
yes. And you cannot rent it.
Okay.
Yeah, and you cannot rent it, okay? So that's the reason that most people then, like these people I work with, they went for 5-year mortgage. Because they can't do anything with the property for 5 years anyways. Right? So what they do, they just sit on that. Right? They will sit on the...
So we went for 5 years mortgage. Why? Would that not mean they're paying more in monthly income?
No, it's still good for them because they're not going to do anything with the property for 5 years. Because you cannot rent it, you cannot sell it. Right? You'd have to live in it. So if the interest rate is cheaper,
Exactly, yeah.
if interest rate is cheaper, right, you rather stay in the fixed rate for 5 years, aren't you?
Oh, that's what you mean. So they took a fixed rate for 5 years.
Fixed rate for 5 years, okay?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So suppose now, this is where you make the money. Suppose now that property was 100,000, it goes up by 5% every single year. Rough case, right? You do the maths. You're talking about 100, 200,000 nearly there.
Yeah.
So now, when you remortgage at that point, hopefully your salary would have gone up, right? You will get 75% of the new value.
Yeah.
And then your loan would have been 60,000, right? So you pull all that money out, you go and build your property portfolio. That's what some of my investors did. Yeah?
Okay.
They did their rent-to-rent thing whilst they do this. When 5 years kick in, they are literally on £100,000. They'll be like, what do I do with this? Right? And then they start buying their properties. Okay? Hence the reason why the government wants to stop it. Because what the people are doing, they're going to take the advantage, buy the property, either move out and rent it or sell it. And then that then causes property scarce. That's why there are less properties than people in the UK because of one of that law. Because when they own this property, they don't normally live in it. They just literally rent it or sell it on. And it's never again a council property. It becomes a private property. And then the council, ideally, whenever they do that, they have to build 2 houses. Yeah, whenever you do one of those, you build 2. But obviously they're not keeping up. Right? So that's the reason why there's a shortage of housing, which is good for us investors as well. Right? And that's why UK property prices goes up significantly compared to any other countries apart from maybe France or New York. Okay? Because of this. Okay? So that's how you can buy a house through a council. Right? And that's how you could make money out of it. And people are doing really, really well in that. But by the way, you remember when I said do not rent it? You could rent a room if you wanted to. Right? Because any house in the UK, you're allowed to rent a room. Yeah, or a couple of rooms, as long as it's not over 7,100. I can't remember the exact figure. Right? You don't pay tax on it as well. Okay? So that's how you could do it. And that's how you can use council homes to buy. But a housing association also, you could be entitled to buy in it. But I don't know the full process. I don't want to give you the wrong advice on that. I'm only giving the advice of what I've done, I've helped people do. Yeah? That's that.